Lucky to Be Here is a podcast that showcases the lives and experiences of those who took the leap and navigated big life and career transitions across countries. They share their stories, their lessons, and advice to show us what is possible and what it takes to define and live their idea of success across borders. Because we all need that extra nudge to make our next bold move and build our paths one day at a time. We're more than just lucky to be here. I am Dr. Analia Gomez Vidal, and I know a thing or two about big leaps and career pivots across countries. I am the founder of AGV Services LLC, a career development business that empowers bold career explorers, creating their paths across industries and countries without self doubt or overwhelm. To learn more about the work that I do and how we can support you through coaching and community, visit agvservicesllc.com. Welcome to Lucky to Be Here. I am really glad you are. I am very excited to welcome today José Luis Delgado. José Luis Delgado is an economist with over 10 years of international experience in financial analysis, management control, accounts receivable, and foreign trade. He's an economics researcher and advisor to local governments in Argentina and the private sector in Turkey. And he's actively involved in media in Argentina and Turkey. He also speaks Spanish, English, Turkish, Russian, and Slovak. And Jose Luis and I have met a long, long time ago and been in touch for many years through our own journeys as international students and professionals. And I'm very excited to welcome him. So welcome to Lucky to Be Here, Jose Luis.
Hello, Annie. Thank you very much for the invitation. It's an honor to be part of your podcast sessions. So yeah, I'm very excited about it.
Excellent. So shall we get into it?
Sure.
So for those who don't know you, where are you from? Where have you been? And where are you now?
Currently, I'm in Argentina, in Buenos Aires. I've been in Turkey. I've been in the US. I've been in Bratislava, Slovakia. Over 12 years living abroad total. And yeah, and also in another part of the world, but living in only those places.
And what led you to move abroad?
Well, first of all, I was always interested in know more about my career, know more about my skills, know more about my adaptations to different kind of contexts, and I wanted to know more about the world.
Mhm.
I studied economics, as you mentioned, and I wanted to study economics in another countries, and also at the same time, I wanted to feel how the people lives under other economics regime. So the only way you can do this is by spending time in another place.
I'm actually curious about, first of all, what the differences are between, like coming from Argentina and then all these different countries that you've been in. But also, I'm curious about what expectations you had going into these different countries.
Yeah, exactly. Before moving to Turkey, which was the place I moved first after Argentina, I've been spending some time in other Western countries, European Western countries, and when you are there, yes, of course, the standard life is totally different from Latin America. However, the cultures and habits and what you can speak with other people, even if it is in another language, are mostly the same. Okay, I don't know, Roman Catholics, football, music, rock and roll, and so on. So most of the things are similar, and the way of living, and the Sunday holidays, and so on. So I know that I was probably find a different way of life in Turkey, as it is in I don't know, some Central Asian countries and African countries and other parts of the world. Okay, I choose this one. And that was the first thing I wanted to experience. I mean, something totally different. And what was the second question? The
what were your
expectations, right?
expectations for, yeah, when you were heading into like such a different environment?
Well, I've read a lot about Turkey
Mhm.
before moving there, and I knew that especially Istanbul is a mix of a crash of cultures,
Mhm.
basically. And it is. I mean, it's exactly that. That's the best
Mhm.
definition of Istanbul in particular. You really meet everyone from every corner of the world. Uh, every nation is living is somehow has its representative in that city. So I was thinking, okay, it will be a kind of Western country,
Mhm.
but it will be also something unique and authentic and different, of course. That
Mhm.
what you believe. So be ready for that.
Yeah.
That was what I was thinking.
What took you to Turkey?
Yes, actually, it's a country which background is quite similar to a Latin American one,
Mhm.
and at the same time, it's quite similar to the Argentinian one. And if you think about both political and economic process in the last 100 years in
Mhm.
both countries are quite similar, and it's probably a mirror. What happened in
Mhm.
one place happened in another. So I was interested in this, and so yeah, I went there to study a master in economics.
Mhm. And so, how long were you there?
About 10 years.
I see. So basically, while you were there, you had the experience of being an international student, first for your master's, then for your PhD. And in the middle of that, you also got the experience of working in the country as well.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah.
So you mentioned a little bit about this already, but what do you find to be like the key differences between Argentina, where you're from, and then Turkey?
Well, I haven't experienced this in Argentina or Latin American countries where I've been.
Hmm.
The way you are treated as a foreigner.
Hmm.
In Eastern Europe, you are truly a real foreigner, and you are treated differently. It doesn't mean that you are treated in a negative way, okay? Uh, but people understand that you have a different background, you have
Hmm.
a different religion, you have probably another perspective of the world. So they treat you different. They are. It doesn't happen this that much in Latin America. I mean,
Hmm.
especially I'm from northern Argentina, so I'm continuously meeting people during all my childhood and teenager. Eh, I've been meeting people from border countries, right?
Hmm.
But the culture is quite similar to Argentinian one, so it wasn't that different from me. And even I can tell you that next to my parents' house was living a
Hmm.
Paraguayan family
Hmm.
in Corrientes. Okay,
Hmm.
so for me it was like I'm living with foreigner people all the time.
Hmm.
However, when you are in Europe, in especially in Eastern Europe, yes, the way you are considered is totally different,
Hmm.
and you have to deal with this. And it doesn't mean, as I said, a negative thing. Actually, what I learned, or probably what I maybe you can think in a delusional way, I understood that if you are treated different, is because you have something special to provide to this society. So use it.
I really love that you're saying that because I think that a lot of the times, even in my own experience, like sometimes we hear so much about, being the other or like being, not from here, that it's hard not to take it personal in a way that really like hurts you at times. And so I love that you're saying it's like, well, you know what? It's almost like a superpower. So I should like lean
Exactly.
into it. Um, and I'm curious to hear, how when you were pointing out that difference while you were going through these different stages in your career, whether you were a student or working in the country, to what extent did you feel any differences in those stages where, in addition to being treated differently by being a foreigner, were you also treated differently, whether you were a student or a coworker, for example?
Yes, it's changed a lot. And yes, when you are a student, it's one thing. When you are a worker, it's totally another story. I don't know if you face
Mhm.
this situation, but I did. And as a student, you are in an international environment. I mean, uh, by default, let's say, um, the professors probably they've been also student in another countries in another time when they were younger, and you have uh, another students in the same faculty and so on. But when you are a worker and you are working in a local company, yes, you are under the country regulations first of all,
Mhm.
so you have to be treated equal. And to be treated equal is to understand their moods, is to understand what they mean when they tell you specific words, specific things. And if you don't, it's like, okay, they can understand that you are not used to something, used to some expressions, used to some habits, but you have to be adapted because they will not be that patient every day. And it's totally understandable. I mean,
Yeah.
as I said again, you have what you can you provide to this company
Mhm.
from your background, from your profile, from your language, whatever. So use it, but at the same time understand where you are to take the most advantage possible.
Yeah. And so when you are dealing with in both situations, right? Like the being a student kind of like had more of an environment where like everybody kind of understood that they were on a similar situation, and there was like more of a context that was um more lenient towards the experience of being an international student. um and even in the workplace case where like you're actually measured by the same metric of sorts in terms of like your experience
Exactly.
and how you
Yes.
show up. How did you deal with that to get you in that mindset of, like, okay, like I still have something to contribute and I'm going to do it from my perspective, even if I'm not from here originally?
The most important thing, I mean, the first shock you have once you start to work and live in the student environment
Mhm.
is the language. So as long as you understand the local language and you understand how to use it, because first you learn the language, the basics, but
Mhm.
then you have to use the local expressions. And to combine how to use the words and all that. So that was the first thing I was immediately obligated to do. I mean, learn the language. And because when you are a student, as I said, you are in an international environment, so you probably use one international language.
Yeah.
You use either French, Spanish, English. And when you start to work in a company, even though the company has English as a daily language, the people speak Turkish.
Yeah.
That's it. I mean, they meet each other in lunch. They don't speak English. Of course, they are Turkish. They all speak Turkish. So, so you have to learn that. And once you learn this, you understand. I mean, everything all the doors opens for you.
Yeah.
I think is the most important when you move to a country is to know the language. I didn't learn the language before coming there. I
Mhm.
learned the language once I was there. However, that can be one important advice: learn the language at least a little bit
Yeah.
before coming to the country.
And I was going to ask you that. So while you were already there, I'm sure, like and we were talking about this before starting the recording, that, there is like an element of being immersed in the language that then shapes how you speak it, right? But in addition to that immersion that you experienced as you moved to Turkey and then had to learn the language as you were going, what were other elements that helped you get to that point where, okay, like I'm learning the language, but I'm also learning how to communicate locally and being able to connect with my coworkers in a deeper way.
Well, if you are, let's say, if you are a Canadian person and
Hmm.
you comes to Argentina to live, you will probably find it strange why 3, 4 people share mate in here, right?
Yeah.
And they say why they are drinking from the same pipe and all that. And okay, when you are in, I don't know, Russia, when you are in France, when you are in Turkey, what do they do in the spare time? What do they do in the daily basis? When you learn to drink their coffee, their chai, their breakfast, when you learn to share what they like the most,
Yeah.
uh, you, that also make you integrate to the society, and you start to love more the place that you are living
Mhm.
in, because you find the pureness of the people.
I appreciate what you're saying because I think the what I am hearing you say is that there is an experiential aspect of learning the language that goes beyond just the words itself, but embracing the culture. And it's through that
Exa-
that then you are able to connect with one another as you're building your language skills, right?
exactly, exactly. And for example, I'm not a religion fan. However, there, okay, it's most of the Turkish people are Muslims, and I never get into their religion. However, I learn many things that they learn from what they believe,
Mhm.
and that's also interesting in one way, but also it show you another side of humanity,
Yeah.
which is super interesting.
And maybe going in that line, you were learning a lot about their like the Turkish culture and the language and kind of like living through that. What were maybe like the things that you were asked the most about your own culture that maybe helped connect with them?
That's probably one of the most interesting questions, because when you and it happened to me also in other Latin American countries. When you are inside your country and you see the richness of Argentina, but also you see the negative things that Argentina has, all the things that you say, no, I'm not proud of this.
And
However,
we
when
have
you
a lot
move,
of those.
of course, and when you're in a country which is, as I said, not a Western country, because probably they know about Argentina in Italy, they know a lot about Argentina in Spain,
Mhm,
in Paraguay, in Brazil. However, when you're in Turkey, or it can be any other country, it can be Bulgaria, for
mhm,
example, uh, they have one vision about Argentina, and they ask you a lot of things. Also, you're living in a super rich country. Why are you coming to Turkey? Everyone wants to go to Germany because Germany is a superpower. It's a
mhm.
high standard life. But also, if I can, I will go to Argentina. So tell me about how to find a job in Argentina. Tell me about how can I apply for the Argentinian citizenship. Tell me about, and you heard this a lot.
Yeah.
So you explain. I mean, I'm an honest person, so I tell them the truth. Yeah, it's a beautiful country. However, you have to struggle as everywhere.
Was there a specific reason that they would say so? For example, I hear a lot of people here whenever I mention that I'm from Argentina. A lot of people either bring up football, and I'm saying football.
Exactly.
I'm not saying soccer, uh, or they
That's the
bring
only
up,
word for this sport. Yeah.
or I bring up. They bring up asado. They bring up beef and meat and their food, and so in your case, were there any specific things that they would associate with Argentina that made them want to like move there?
Yeah. Apart from football, music like
Mm.
tango, and yes, and asado. And specifically, they ask a lot about this because they have this idea that eating meat is eating fat. Okay, and because they eat, for example, the Japanese meat or others meat that from other parts of the world that are fatter than the Argentinian one.
Yeah.
So when you explain about this, they are also surprised, and yes, they are also surprised why there are not this affecting the health of people in Argentina. I mean, why
Uh,
do you eat too much meat? Because it's dangerous and it can be not healthy. But when you explain this, it's made them it makes sense for them. And tango is another thing, and I was amazed about this because there are a school of tangos in several cities in Turkey. Many of them are Turks who moved to Argentina to learn tango, and then they go back and teach. And with the asado was the same. There was this famous restaurants chain. I don't remember now, but it was a man who was cooking like spreading salt in. He also moved to Argentina to learn how to cook
mhm.
meat, and then he went back to Turkey. So yeah, this is very interesting. And the time I was in Bratislava, I can add this.
Yeah.
I met a Turkish couple teaching tango there, and they were living in Argentina, learning tango, and then they moved to Bratislava. And they opened a school there, and there was an Argentinian flag even in that school. That
Wow.
was super interesting.
As a side note, one fun fact about me and tango is I actually started learning a little bit of tango before moving to the US because I was so stressed out about applying for grad school that my way of just like disconnecting was watching South Korean soap operas. And in one of them, it was all about tango. And I was like, I am in the country of tango and I do not know how to dance tango. How dare I?
Exactly. Exactly. And one funny thing is that everyone asks you, like, teach me to dance tango, because they assume that if you're Argentina, you know how to play football, first of all, and then you know how to dance tango. All right.
Did you end up like learning tango at all?
A little bit, yes.
Nice. So you mentioned, like you mentioned as well that you moved to Bratislava for some time. How did it feel once you were already, like settled in Turkey, and then like the opportunity came for you to like move to Bratislava? How did you feel taking that next step?
Um, I think this is a very important thing because that time I felt that one stage of my life were closing, and I have to move on in my life. And the time for Istanbul, which I love it, has come to an end, and I have to do something else. So it was, yeah, after about 10 years,
Hmm.
and after a lot of things that I experienced there were nothing else from my perspective to do,
Hmm.
and or to learn or to find out. And yes, and that was the main reason I moved it.
Hmm. So it felt for you that everything you wanted to get out of your time in Istanbul was already fulfilled. And so you were looking for an additional challenge, let's say.
Exactly that. Yes, yes. I wasn't. I don't know if this happened to other people, but I was waking up and say, "This is it. I have to do something else
Yeah.
with my
And
life."
how did it feel once you were there? Like did it um I guess my question is after spending so much time in Istanbul and like all the work, and the experiences that you had accumulated there, how did it feel navigating the adjustment in this new space?
Uh, Actually, it was totally organic.
Uh-huh.
It was very natural. I don't know if I have the right expression for this, but this it was natural. I mean, I came to a new city, I found a new place,
Hmm.
and okay, how can I go to the university? How can I go to the library? How can I go to the football stadium? And you don't have to make a deep research of all the things that you have to do, because I already did this when I
Yeah,
was in Turkey. So it was for me, it's okay, just prepare the luggage, move on. And yes, it was very natural for me.
yeah. So did it feel in any way that because you already had the practice of having done the big move to Istanbul, then you were like equipped in a different way to do another move like that?
Definitely, definitely, and especially I shared a place with a Turkish guy in Bratislava. And yes, and I was sharing with him because it was his first time outside his country,
Mhm,
and I was sharing with him everything when he was in when he needs to deal with documentation things, for
mhm,
example, documentation issues. So I was telling him when I was in Turkey, I did this, and it was useful for him. Of course, it's different in a different country. You're in European Union and so on. However, you can use. I could use what I learned and suggest to him about what he can do.
yeah,
And like this with everything. I mean, with applying for a credit card, a bank account, finding a sports center, finding museum cards, for example, and everything. It's become much easier to you.
yeah. Um, it's in some ways, I think that it's very interesting because like what you are sharing is there is a certain sense of resourcefulness that we develop over time because we kind of like had to. And then that transfers into everything else that we do, even if it is in the same space or in a different country, in a different language, in a different context.
Yes, yes, exactly, exactly. What you developed once you're abroad. Yeah, first you have to survive. Yeah,
Hmm.
definitely you have to survive, and and then yeah, you can make a comparison. Yeah, yeah, I wanted to be here, so it's not like you are accepting whatever it comes, but you have to face how to solve it. I mean, there is no other option
Yeah.
on this.
Yeah, it's like we say over here in English, like sink or swim, basically. Like you have no alternative. Um,
Exactly. Yeah.
so you also have a very interesting experience of deciding to do a move abroad and being long term abroad, and then also returning back to your home country. And I am curious what your experience has been going through that transition back to Argentina so far?
One thing you learn being abroad. Okay, first of all, is to live with yourself and be by yourself, be by your
Mhm,
own, and use it. And I think this made me understood how important is to be surrounded by the right people. When you are abroad, you are completely alone. I mean, you are
mhm.
solo. You are alone. You have to survive by yourself, and you have to value yourself. So
Mhm,
this is what when you move either back to your home country or to another country, you know your worth. Okay, so you know what are you able to accept from others people
mhm,
uh, in in anything. I mean, in salaries, for example, I can mention what are you able to tolerate from others in the daily life. And so you understand that you cannot be surrounded by anybody.
Mhm.
Uh, you and this doesn't mean that you have to reject everyone who doesn't fit exactly to you. No. However, it's totally the opposite.
Yeah.
Is to accept that others are different, but what can you bring to them, and how important can you be to for others, and
Yeah.
what they will give it to you. And I learned that family is the most important, and it was especially I I came in 2024
Mhm.
to Argentina. I spent like about 1 month, and I really didn't want to leave the country anymore. And it was this idea that I don't want to take another plane, and it was
Yeah.
seriously like this,
Yeah.
that dramatic, probably. So I said yes. I am important also
Yeah.
for my family in here, and for my friends in here, and and I have to be with them, not in again, not in the sense that you are obligated to this, so quit your
Yeah.
life. And no, it's because probably they have no others, or
Yeah.
or they have others, but those others will not give them what you have for them. So
Yeah.
you have also one responsibility, and and as I say, family is most important. Be
Mhm.
surrounded by right people, and understand how important you are for others. And one thing that I don't know if we learn in our country in a negative way,
Mhm.
or somehow they want to put in our these ideas in our head that everything is bad inside here. You have to move abroad and all that because you will have better salaries and better standard life and so on. Yes, you can make this comparison. That's true. However, I mean, you will struggle everywhere,
Yeah.
wherever you are, uh, either for jobs, either for a career, either
Mhm.
for your personal goals. You will struggle a lot in your country, abroad, wherever you are. I mean, you
Mhm.
you better know than me this. Um, I mean, it will not make me unhappy or less happy to be here in my country. Uh, Staying abroad, I will have to struggle a lot, and be here the same. So, but here
Yeah.
I am surrounded by the right people. So that's was the mix of decisions that
Yeah.
uh, uh, I mean, among others,
Mhm.
because to move in to another country is a very personal decision. So
Yeah.
everyone knows better. I mean, their own uh,
Yeah.
variables are involved in this.
Yeah, and actually that, like that is something that resonates a lot, not just with me, but also it's something that I share a lot with people when we talk about, developing careers and lives abroad. Is like, what are the trade-offs that you're willing to accept, right? And what is it that you want to gain from being in a specific environment? Because, sometimes we tend to, like you were saying, like we tend to romanticize this idea of like what it is like to live abroad and all the things that you can achieve living abroad and all of this. And by contrast, especially in Argentina, we do have a tendency to kind of like to poo poo and criticize a lot constantly. But at the same time, it is true that, every space, every country, every area has very different cultures, requirements, like barriers and possibilities. And so, which ones are you willing to accept? Like you were saying, not just about the community around you and understanding what boundaries and needs you have, but also in terms of what is it, how is the country, the city that you want to move to fitting in that vision that you have for yourself, because you're always going to have the good, the bad, and everything else around.
Yes, yes,
Um,
exactly.
and one question that I have that I'm curious about is like in that shift back to Argentina and Argentine culture. What has been the most surprising um, part of the experience so far?
You mean returning to
Yes.
country?
Hmm.
Um, so far, I can't say what has shocked me, uh, but I can say that I don't feel that those difference anymore.
Hmm.
Those difference between the country, and then you found out, and this was an interesting discussion I used to have with other friends. Like, it is important to live in a country with, I don't know, human rights, stable currency, stable prices, stable job market, and all that. Yes, that's true. I can't imagine how it's to struggle under some
Hmm.
regimes, or however, it's more important what you can be. And
Mm.
I was surprised that, yeah, I don't find that huge difference. I used to think it was in the country, in my home country. I found it very okay. What can I do to survive here? And like, same as before. Yes, there are
Yeah.
differences. Of course, there are. You know, the I can say the banking system, for example, in Argentina, it's totally different from Europe. Um, but that's fine. I can adapt myself to this, and like this, I don't find those huge difference anymore. And this is one of the things I try to explain to my friends and the people I meet here. That when they ask me why did you move here, well, it's not that bad at the
Yeah.
place where you are.
Yeah, what I'm hearing you say throughout our conversation is those things that maybe at some other point weighted more on you and mattered more or felt bigger burdens now are not as big of a deal because the importance of your community, your family, being surrounded by the people that you love takes so much more importance than everything else is kind of like manageable.
It definitely, yeah, yes. You can say that your preferences are changed
Yeah.
probably, and that's why you don't see those differences that you used to think there were here. And again, I don't know where in which point, probably if I start to think deeply I will find out, but in which moment of my life I start to think this kind of things.
Yeah.
If someone installed me these ideas, or I misunderstood, I don't know. I mean,
Or simply that they changed over time as you were changing too.
yes, that's probably.
So, speaking of, I have a couple more questions before we wrap up with our chat today. The first one is, what is one piece of practical advice that you would give to anyone listening who might be interested to in moving abroad, maybe to a place like Turkey or even to Slovakia afterwards, or even to Argentina?
Well, research about the country where you go. Try to learn a little bit about the language, and always has a backup plan, because can I mean there is a huge possibility. I can say 50% that you will not find what you expected. You will probably find something better. But
Mhm.
if you have it, because I met people also that decide to stop their living abroad and going back to their country
Yeah,
because they didn't fit there, which is also a, a situation that you can face.
yeah.
Um, have a backup plan, and learn how to manage your finances. I mean,
Mhm.
in a very um, uh, you're in a penny level, let's say.
Yeah.
I mean, every penny counts. So
Mhm.
learn that, and you will learn, and it will be useful for the rest of your life, like 100% sure. And yeah, to have a backup plan, I think is the best advice. of all, and be patient. That's also one thing. I mean, once you move there, I mean, the first second day, you will learn nothing about the country. But if after you spend some time, you will see. Okay, I can take, I can do this here. I can take this, and I can provide this. But also, if you are not happy, yeah, you're free to go.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, and the last question that I have for you is, if you met the version of yourself who decided to move abroad back then, today, what would you like them to know?
I already made this question in my life, and I can say that I don't regret at all the decision I made when I
Mhm.
decided to move abroad. Because just to analyze the experiences you have, the places you've been, the people you met, it's something unique that you definitely will never ever learn by not moving.
Thank you so much for joining me today, Jose. It's been a pleasure to both catch up and also have this conversation.
Pleasure was all mine, Anna. Thank you for inviting.
If you made it to the end of this episode, thank you. Remember that you can use code LUCKY25, LUCKY25, to get 20% off when you subscribe to my coaching membership, AGV Lab for Career Explorers. Learn more about AGV Lab and book your call to join using the link in the show notes. That is all for today. My name is Dr. Analia Gomez Vidal, and I thank you for joining us today on Lucky to Be Here. If you liked this episode, please make sure to rate and review and subscribe wherever you're listening. You can also sign up to our newsletter using the link on our show notes to access the video version of our episodes. To learn more about the work that I do to support bold career explorers across countries through coaching and community, please visit agvservicesllc.com and follow AGV Services LLC on LinkedIn and Instagram. I'll see you next time.